So I won't take too much of her time because I know she has some amazing messages, and it's a real treat every time she comes to speak. We're very lucky to have her here in person. In a moment, I'd like to invite Claire Biot up to the stage. I still remember the first symposium that she joined, I think it was 4 years ago maybe, she'll correct me. She had only been with the company for months, and this was a unique experience to her. And she got up on stage as if she had been with us since day one. I'm sure you will see her grasp of these topics, these concepts are amazing, and her vision and excitement is something that inspires all of us. So with that, I'd like to invite up to the stage Claire Biot, who's Vice President of Life Sciences and Healthcare for Dassault Systèmes.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve. Welcome, everyone. It feels so good to be back in person. Steve, thanks for the very kind words. I have the exact same souvenir 4 years ago, Virtual Twin Symposium, standing on stage after a few months joining Dassault Systèmes. And why did I join Dassault Systèmes? Well, because I've been just, this belief has just blown my mind, right? Virtual worlds extend and improve the real world. Why do we care? Well, because in virtual worlds, you can anticipate, evaluate the impact of a product before producing it. So you can really accelerate the pace to innovation. You can open the field of imagination. But that's not all. Virtual worlds also help people share the same representation of what they're trying to achieve, and so it drastically changes the way different disciplines are going to collaborate together around the same goal. So now, why do we care, why do I care about life sciences and healthcare, and why did Dassault Systèmes invest so massively in that system? Well, we think it is time to change now. Why so? Well, if you look at the world, only half of the worldwide population has access to essential healthcare today. And if you now focus on developed countries, the healthy life expectancy has not progressed much in the past few years, despite the fact that healthcare expenses have grown twice faster than GDP. So we think it's not sustainable. We want to help meet medical needs with sustainable healthcare system. And to do so, our belief is that virtual twins are really a game changer. Imagine if you're able to understand, represent, test, and predict what cannot be seen, from the way a drug affects a disease to the outcome of a surgical intervention. That's really what we're trying to achieve, and we want to position the virtual twin as a way to propose a platform for medical practice excellence and value-based care. And we do that taking into account the patient, so really the end user of the healthcare system. And if we try to project into the future, what does it mean to be healthy for a patient? Well, we heard that in the first part of Science Week at Science in the Age of Experience when Professor Weinberg reminded us that it starts with prevention. And prevention means a good diet, but also personalized, a good diet, good lifestyle, and critical to that, the food diet. So it starts with personalized food that is going to help you remain healthy as much as possible. It means continuous monitoring that will help you track if you're remaining healthy and detect diseases as early as possible so that you can act. It also means that patients are becoming actors of their own health. They are enabled by access to digital data. It's hundreds of mHealth apps that are coming into Apple stores, Android stores every day. And patients becoming actors of their own health means that it really changes the relationship between the patient and the physician. The physician becomes a coach for the patient, and the patient is really directly involved into the decision making. It also means that we move from siloed patient journeys to continuous patient journeys, and critical to that is the understanding of the health status of the patient. And to that extent, I think you saw from Patrick Johnson's presentation yesterday, we do believe that the virtual twin of the human body is the next generation of EHRs, which will make patient data intelligible and lead into actionable insights. Of course, that relies on next-gen precise therapies, and many of you in the room are contributing to that. We heard very inspiring talks yesterday, and we will hear more today. For this audience, I think that you would all agree that we don't want that, like for each intervention, it should not be on the patient. You should always test a treatment option on the virtual twin of the patient before moving into the real patient. And then, of course, it means health coverage for all. So in that context, what do we do at Dassault Systèmes? Well, today we serve two segments of the healthcare ecosystem, biopharma companies and medical device and equipment companies, so life sciences companies. And our offerings are centered on the products that they develop, so molecular therapies, medical devices that more and more come together because if you want your drug to be efficient, having a smart injector can make sense. And more, they also come with digital therapeutics apps that will help the patient adhere to that treatment, anticipate side effects or evolution of the disease. We have the ambition to serve the broader healthcare ecosystem, especially healthcare providers. We are having very strong proof points, the Living Heart Project being one of them, but we don't have yet an offering that's packaged in that domain. So with that in mind, where do we stand today? Well, the life sciences and healthcare industry for Dassault Systèmes represents 22% of our revenue, so it's already quite a large industry for us. We serve 13,000 customers across the world. All the top 20 biopharma, medtech companies are our customers, but also their ecosystem, for example, the top 10 contract research organizations. In terms of volume, it means that more than half of the drugs that come to market have been designed using our solutions, the same for medical devices. Almost half of the new commercial clinical trials that are launched are supported by the Medidata platform. Patrick hit that number yesterday. We mentioned it. We have more than 13,000 trials in our database with more than 9 million patients that have been going through clinical trials supported by Medidata. And doing so, we touch roughly 100,000 clinicians that are really passionate about innovation and that directly contribute to clinical trials. So for the rest of my presentation, I wanted to show you, with that big picture in mind, give you, a glimpse of what we do, looking at the different kinds of virtual twin experiences that we're going to combine to deliver outcomes for our customers. And so I will start by focusing on life sciences companies, which are those that we serve today. And then I will give you a glimpse on what is coming for the healthcare ecosystem. And so if we focus on life sciences companies, our belief is that really what matters is to be able to connect 4 different types of virtual twin experiences: the virtual twin experience of the patient, the product, the process, and the plant. And obviously the product has to fit for the patient, the process fit for the product, and the plant fit for the process. So I will give you one example of each that I will comment briefly. If I think about the virtual twin experience of the patient, obviously the work that Medidata is doing comes to mind, and I wanted to give you the example of synthetic control arms. So what is it? Well, it is taking historical trial data as a way to accelerate outcomes for new clinical trials. Why so? Because when you run a clinical trial, you're going to compare your treatment of interest against a standard of care, and that standard of care already had to go through clinical trials to be approved. And as Medidata is the leader in the market, it's very likely that we have the data from the clinical trials of that standard of care. Regulatory agencies are very supportive of using this kind of synthetic data as a way to accelerate access to innovation for patients, especially in the case of rare diseases when it's very difficult to find patients and diseases for which there is no satisfactory standard of care. So to date, we have 13 regulatory engagements. 6 have led to favorable outcomes, like breakthrough designation or validation of a protocol using that synthetic control arm. Last year, we received more than 300 requests, which means more than once a day. And biotech companies have been leading the way because they're ready to take more risk as a way to accelerate outcomes. But as they go and as they become successful, we have seen many more stakeholders come to us and request synthetic control arms. And here you have a list of the indications that we support as of today. It's more than 20. If I move to the product, I'm showing you here a short example of what we do in terms of combining AI and a virtual twin of a molecule. So here, the example we have taken with my Biovia friends is looking for a new oral antidepressant. So at the beginning of the video, you set the parameters to say that you want to target the dopamine system, you want to avoid liver and cardiac toxicity, and you look at the stability. And what the system is going to do is to generate millions of molecules that meet these targets, selecting those that are the best, further refining them. And then the computational chemist is going to come in and also, with their knowledge, fine-tune the findings so that you move from that million possible molecules to a few hundred that you're going to hand over to the lab so that they're going to test them at the wet lab, generating results that are going to be fed back into the model and so on and so forth. Moving to the virtual experience of the process, well, you know that more and more new drugs are biologics. That's a way to move into precision medicine. And there, really importantly, the process is the product. And so we have with Biovia very strong tools to develop, to do the process and the drug product development. And we combine that with some understanding of the way the equipments are going to work together as a way to optimize the scale-up of the production. And here, a great example that I could showcase is what we have committed to do with Amgen. So Amgen is obviously a leader in the domain of biologics, and they have been using Biovia to develop their biologics for a long time, and they're also a SolidWorks customer. And for their drugs, it's super important that they're going to have the best injector to ensure patient adherence, and obviously a very efficient biologic. And as they develop both with our software, they have decided to manage the entire life cycle and the process development with us. And once you have been able to scale your product, obviously you want to produce it in your factories. And here I'm taking the example of Sanofi. Sanofi has been investing €500 million into 2 new factories that will allow for modular manufacturing. Why is it important to move into modular manufacturing? Well, biologics means smaller batches, and there is also a lot of uncertainty in the demand. So the idea was that they wanted to have a flexible plant that would help them move very quickly from one treatment to the other. That treatment could be a vaccine, by the way, and so in case of pandemics, you want to really be able to reshuffle your factory very fast. And so what we're doing with them is help them manage the life cycle of their recipes and their equipments so that they know exactly how to combine the different equipments together. It's a little bit like building Legos, so that they're gonna know how to manufacture treatment A and move quickly from treatment A to treatment B. So the idea is that they want to do the changeover in a week, while it would usually take a month, and that they want to have the flexibility to manufacture 4 products in parallel where they would usually do 1. So that gives you a glimpse of what we are doing to serve our life sciences companies, combining the virtual twin experience of the patient, the product, the process, and the plant to accelerate innovation, access to innovation for patients. Now, in the time that remains, I just want to give you a glimpse of what we're doing for the healthcare ecosystem, the broader healthcare ecosystem. Obviously, this work is inspired, has really its foundation with the Living Heart Project. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that chart because, I mean, you've heard so much yesterday, but this is really the foundation for us to think about our strategy in that domain. And if I go to the next slide, which is always... So you showed that, Patrick already showed that to you. When we think about the healthcare ecosystem, we believe that we need 3 different types of virtual twin experiences. The patient as a way to understand their disease, test different treatment options, and optimize the outcome. So the value for the physician will be that they can actually test these different treatment options. The value for the patient is to have a better understanding of their own health status and make informed decisions. And the value for life sciences companies I've already discussed, but obviously is to design safe and effective treatments. The virtual twin of the hospital as a way to understand the context in which the care is given. The value for the physician here is to work in an optimized setting. And the value for the patient is to understand their patient journey. And then on top of that, we also look at the virtual twin of the healthcare system as a way to understand the money flow, the incentives, and ensure that there can be an affordable and accessible healthcare. And so I will give you some examples of each. I will go fast on that one because you have already seen example yesterday, but I'm so proud of the work of our team. So we have been taking the living heart to really extreme parameterization to be able to understand what happens in the context of mitral regurgitation. So you see here the real patient data to the left, and then we are able to build the to personalize the virtual twin to reproduce the disease and to understand the treatment. And the idea here is that we want to be able to support decision-making as the way to decide where to put a repair device to enhance the patient outcome. And you're going to hear more later about other use cases, the idea being that you can also leverage that kind of virtual twins to run an in silico clinical trial, generating a cohort of virtual patients that all have a defect in their mitral valve, and checking if the repair device that you're designing is going to lead to generate efficacy and safety of treatment for the patients. If I move to the hospital, I want to share with you one way that we can leverage virtual twins to enhance the experience of the patient. So here I'm going to speak about the Vortex project, which has been a collaboration between our 3D Experience Lab, the Hartmann Institute, which is part of a large private hospital group in France, and Accuray, which is the device maker. And here what matters, more than half of the patients that have cancer will undergo radiotherapy. And that can be a difficult experience because you're told that you're going to go through these sessions. There will be imaging, and you will be told that you have to lay still. You don't want to move because the treatment regimen is going to be computed based on the imaging, and so the X-rays are going to be shot on the tumor, so that and not on the healthy tissue. And you're going to be alone in that room, and you don't know what it's going to look like. And so here the idea, and it's going to take 4 to 5 weeks between the time when you're told that you're going to go through that radiotherapy and when the sessions will actually start. And so what we have done is we have built that VR experience. So the patient is going to put a headset and see what it means to be in that experience. So they will visit the control tower, see that there are 2 technicians that will supervise the operation, and then they will enter the room, understand what are the different pieces of equipment, see what it feels like to see the robot come up on the top of your head. You will also not only see, but you will also have the sound to have a full experience. And our bet is that it's going to reduce the level of anxiety for the patient, and we are launching a clinical trial with Medidata to demonstrate that. Another example of virtual twin experiences of the hospital is to ensure that you can have better working conditions for healthcare professionals and prevent cross-contaminations of airborne pathogens. And that's a work that's been initiated during COVID. So we have been able to reproduce the way patients would cough and spread aerosols in the room. And we have been able to help many hospitals around the world, from China in Wuhan to Paris and the US, changing settings in the airflow in the room so that they would limit cross-contamination. So here it's a simple example of a room when the patient is lying, and you would change the orientation of the bed to ensure that there will be the fastest possible air extraction. And we have also been working with several patients in the same room to limit those cross-contaminations. And finally, we have started some work with École Normale Supérieure in Paris to look at the healthcare ecosystem. And here we're looking at it from a systems of systems point of view. So we want to reproduce money flows and understand how you're going to optimize different, like how you're going to take into account different sets of parameters to optimize to optimize the way hospitals would be staffed from an economic standpoint, but also health standpoint. So stay tuned for the outcomes of this work. So it's time for me to conclude. What I've shown you is just some highlights of the work we're doing with our customers, life sciences companies, to accelerate therapeutic innovation, leveraging the virtual twin experiences of the patient, the product, the process, and the plant. And I've also shown you how we're moving into serving healthcare providers to enhance delivery of care, leveraging the virtual twin experience of the patient, the hospital, and healthcare systems. With that, I thank you for your attention, and I look forward to the rest of the day.